Good morning, and welcome to the Worship Associates service. I'm Megan Griffin, and I'm working alongside with the rest of the Worship Associate team. Please stand up and be recognized. Ron Solberg, Dave Lloyd, Julia Beckman, Anita Jenks, Jean Schaefer, Paula Sujit-Javorek, Susan Hebel, and the Worship Associate today, Linda Rio. This excellent team will give an overview of what we have enjoyed and some of the background of what we have been doing without a minister for the past year. There have been some challenges, of course, but overall, our team has persevered, and with you as a congregation to back us up, we have pulled off some great services. We look forward to working with Reverend Beth, who will join us next week, March 5th. If you have not had your picture taken for the Getting to Know You flyer that we are sharing with Reverend Beth, please see Karen McDowell or Claire Sheldon at the end of the service. Also, please fill out the survey to let Reverend Beth know who you are. This is found online in the news and notes or on a piece of paper in the back of the church and can be, downstairs, okay, the piece of paper downstairs, and can be given to Darren Howard afterwards. If you want to pick up your year-end contribution statement, stop by the living room and pick it up. It's on the table to the left. A shout out goes out to the hospitality team, number 7, led by Eric Haas. And as always, great thanks goes to our tech team, Alex Dvorak and Jean Schaefer. And a special thank you to our great pianist, Jamie Passman, who always makes us smile with his wonderful music. There's always a lot going on and around UCH, and you can read all about it in your news and notes, which arrives in your inbox every Friday. If you would like to receive news and notes, you can go to the church's website and click on the Connect button on the top of the homepage. If you are a visitor and would like to receive news and notes, you can put your name in the visitor's book, which is on the table in the back of the living room. For everyone, there are pronoun stickers that you can put on your name tag. These are also found at the visitor's table in the basket. Some of the goings-ons this week are Buddhist meditation, wise elders, nonfiction book group, and the breakfast group. For more information about them, please take a look at your news and notes. And there is a rally in Springfield on March 7th in support of a bill to create elder parole for those people who have been in prison for 25 or more years. Did you know that Illinois has not had a parole system since 1978? And to see Tracy Potoff for more information. Please join us downstairs after the service for our coffee hour, treats, and casual conversation. If you are a visitor, you can pick up a green mug to know that you are visiting and we can greet you. Now, please stand if you are willing and able and join us in singing Enter, Rejoice, and Come In, number 361 in the hymnal. The words are on the screen.
Song great, energetic way to get started. Our opening words are from UUA Minister of Worship Arts, Erica Hewitt. To encourage means to hearten, to impart strength and confidence. This is our work as a religious community, to encourage one another, to be bold in engaging the world around us, as well as what scares us internally, to give one another the confidence and heart to live as fully as possible. With full hearts, we affirm our relationships with one another, we recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls. Please join us in the chalice lighting words, which are on the screen. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And now we have a special announcement from the Pledge Team Drive. They're going to come up.
Hello. You may be wondering what's up with our capes. Well, it turns out that we are all superheroes. Did you hear those two U's in super?
We are super simply because we do what we can to make UCH the super community it is. And we wanted to let you know that, yes, you can be a superhero too.
As you know, our church is super in many ways, from our thoughtful worship services and wonderful music to empowering us to live our principles out in the world. And we welcome our new minister next week.
Please support our super community by doing what you can to contribute to the church's financial health.
Look for your Be a Superhero pledge packet in the mail, and please take the time to read it and check out the easy ways you can turn in your pledge by March 12th.
Also on March 12th, after the service, we'll celebrate our superhero pledges with a lunch. Turning in your pledge on time provides valuable information that your super board of trustees and finance committee needs to create a budget for the next church year in time for our annual meeting. So all together? Up and away!
You. I would like to invite all our children, or young and young at heart, to come on up for the story for all ages, or time for all ages. And actually, we have some paper and crayons for you so that you can participate in an activity. Our book is called The Circles All Around Us. It was written by Brad Montague and illustrated by Brad and Christy Montague. So you guys can grab a piece of paper and some crayons. And the first thing I'm going to have you do is draw a real quick picture of you, just representing yourself. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. You could do it on your papers. A safe little place for just one person. Nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself. But that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you can see what all can happen in a circle full of care. Granny, Dot, and Papa Bit, Barkley, Uncle Hank, Great Granny, new cousin. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all your friends could come and play? Look at all the friends. You guys can see the pictures up here. You can look at the book over here. Look at that. All your friends. So you stretch and draw your circle even bigger than it's been, and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. Oh, I love all your circles. Yet, there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do, though it feels slightly uncomfortable. We draw a bigger circle for them too. It doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more. It says, I'm team cake, I'm team pie, I'm really outgoing, I'm quiet and shy. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. As time passes, our eyes open. We see others we really care for. And that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. Look at all that caring ripple out. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, the difference we can make, we can all show. As our circles grow and grow, and we watch them wonder-eyed, remember, the first circle started with just the love you hold inside. Take it with you, okay?
I don't have the words up there, sorry.
Good morning. Would you like, this is our meditation period, so if you would sort of put your feet flat on the floor, take some deep breaths. It isn't a guided meditation, but I'd like you to be in a mood where you can listen closely to the meditation I'm going to read. It is called Neighborhood, and it was selected by the Reverend Forrester Church, who was at a New York church for years and years. He was quoting a medieval Jewish story. A rabbi spoke with God about heaven and hell. "I will show you hell," said God, and they went into a room which had a large pot of stew in the middle. The smell was delicious, but around the pot sat people who were famished and desperate. All were holding spoons with very long handles which reached to the pot. But because the handles of the spoons were longer than their arms, it was impossible to get the stew back into their mouths. "Now I will show you heaven," God said, and they went into an identical room. There was a similar pot of stew, and the people had identical spoons, but they were well-nourished and happy. "It's simple," God said. "You see, they have learned to feed each other." Take a minute to think about that. And we here at UU have learned to feed each other for a long time. Thank you.
We enter this space bringing with us joys, concerns, challenges, and blessings. If you have something dancing or weighing on your heart, feel free to come up and light a candle and say a few words, or keep your intentions to yourself. If you choose to say a name, please keep it to first names only, as we are live on YouTube.
I'd like to celebrate one of our members today who is having a birthday, Darren. Where is he? He's in the back. There he is. Dear friend of this church community, happy birthday.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I lit 3 candles for 3 joys. The first is to thank everyone who reached out to me during my recent travails and for your support. Thank you so much. The second one is for the worship team, which sustained us through these past months without a minister, and I'm really grateful for that because it's been wonderful. And the third one is Pam Fodor, Pam, who really held the place together as the only staff person. Those are my joys. Thank you.
I'm Keith, and this is for my sister-in-law, Lynn, who passed away earlier this month after a long period of failing health and then deciding to decline further medical intervention. May she now rest in peace.
I lit 3 candles, 2 for people I have lost who were very much part of my life during my growing years, and it's very sad. And the third one for my 2 daughters, a 55 and a 60-year-old, who went down to Disney and are running in the Disney Marathon in costume.
I'm lighting a candle for my cousin Anthony, who passed away last month from long COVID. He would have been 58 this week.
And we light the last 3 candles, one for those joys and intentions that we're too sorrow to say, one for this community, thank you for all the work that you do, and one for our leaders in our world, that they know who they work for.
I will be speaking on my part of the worship team. It's been my honor to be part of this worship committee for several years. By far the most challenging time, I think we would all agree, has been since COVID struck in March of 2020, followed by Reverend Pam's retirement in 2022. Most of you know that I serve 2 roles involving worship, as choir director and as worship associate, and occasionally as a worship leader. When COVID happened and the church changed to all virtual services, the celebration singers needed to pivot as well. Since my technical, since my technical skills would fit in a thimble, if you all can remember what a thimble is, I relied on Reverend Karen Mooney, who quickly learned how to put together a virtual choral performance. And we couldn't have done it without the piano and tech skills of our own Jamie Passman, who was there to help. We learned to sing and record ourselves, if you can imagine this, alone at home, all by ourselves, listening to the sound of only our voices. Then send the recording to the mysterious Google Drive. Then Karen worked the magic of putting us all together. The video of our traditional Christmas favorite, Night of Silence, lives on YouTube. Check it out. We also learned from what other choirs were doing as well to keep the music alive. So Reverend Karen produced a multi-church choir recording of I Dreamed of Rain. The most fun for me was directing that piece in an empty sanctuary while Jamie's recording of the accompaniment played and Karen Mooney recorded. The result of many diverse voices was impressive, but it was an interesting experience. So I was also honored to lead, I think, about 4 services during this period. 1 totally virtual for Labor Day 2020, 2 outdoor services during the summer of 2022, and 1 hybrid in the fall of 2022. In terms of ease, of course, the summer non-technical services were the easiest for me, but these informal interactive services brought us together as a family to share views and learn new things. For 1 service, Megan Griffin was the scribe and wrote as we shared our hopes and dreams for the future of UCH, which I'll share with Reverend Beth when she gets settled, and hopefully she won't be too stunned by it. It was like 4 pages of our hopes and dreams. The all-virtual Labor Day service was tricky, but since it was all recorded or live from the comfort of my living room, it ran smoothly. The fall hybrid service was the most challenging, making sure that our live service transmitted to our home audience and that the recorded sermon and children's story also went off without a hitch. Once again, I relied on the kindness of friends in the persons of Gene Schaefer and Alex Dvorak to make it all work, and somehow it all went together. So working together with this talented, dedicated group led by the inimitable Dave Lloyd has been a challenge and a joy. I believe we rose to the challenge of providing this church family with the togetherness we all crave. Thanks.
I was hoping I could go first so I didn't have to follow anybody. That's okay. Within the Worship Associate Committee, I'm definitely the newest member, and I was trying to think of ways that I might have impacted the church during COVID, but the thing that came back to me was nothing has really defined my life during COVID as much as the church itself. In fact, it was at church that I originally kind of realized that this was going to be like a thing. On March 11th, 2020, there was a board meeting, just a regular board meeting. We're in the Jerry Shipton room, and we were talking about what we're going to be able to do as a church if, there's a public health crisis. And while I understood the importance of preparation, I do work in occupational safety and health, there was also a part of me that felt like this is a touch of overreaction, like I'm not gonna lie. In just the past couple presidents, we'd been through swine flu and bird flu. Ebola was a thing again for a while. I don't know if you guys remember that. And it seemed like we just went through this every few years, but during that meeting, my phone buzzed. I looked and I saw that the NBA had just suspended the season indefinitely. And it was at that time that I realized that we probably weren't going to church on Sunday. We were probably living in a future American history episode. And then there were meetings, so many meetings to discuss how the church would operate generally, meetings to discuss how we could have service when no one could come to church. And eventually I was invited to meetings with the Worship Associate Circle to help bring what the tech team was doing to the services on Sunday. And then I just kind of never went away. The thing is in all those meetings, I wasn't by myself, right? I was never there alone. And in those meetings also work didn't just get done. I learned about people and built new relationships. And sometimes I say I'm married into the church, thanks to my lovely wife, Tiffany. That is definitely true, but it was really during COVID that I felt like I was no longer an in-law, although a very well accepted in-law, but an actual part of the family. So a lot of today is focused on worship, but I'd like to briefly talk about some of the other things that work got accomplished over the past couple years. And I made a list, so. Not only did we transition from Zoom to YouTube, but a whole AV infrastructure was modernized, and I can't even go into details about what that entailed. It would take the rest of the service. We brought new computers. We put in LED lights above the pulpit to brighten the place up. The entire church was repainted. I have a picture of us at our wedding, and it looks a lot better with this new paint. We moved to digital orders of service to save trees, and we improved our electrical system and installed a new fire protection system to save our building. We even had work done on the literal church foundation. And there isn't enough time for me to give a shout out to everybody, but I feel like someone who doesn't get enough credit for all the work that happened on the church is Tom Brackett. A lot of this happened, actually all of this happened, at a time when we had not one but two existential crises. Being on the board, there was a lot of concern about how we would just survive. And then through all of that, we actually improved. It wasn't just us in the meetings that stood up to meet the demands of the moments, it was the entire congregation. And just like this building's foundation is stronger now than it was 3 years ago, so is the church as a whole. Thank you.
Hi, I've been blessed to be on this worship team since before Reverend Pam came, and it's just been just a real amazing experience. So I'm going to share about the ways that the worship team supported this congregation outside of Sunday services, both when Reverend Pam retired and during COVID, but even before that when Reverend Pam needed our support as a congregation, and we tried to step up where we could. So we realized that our members would need support for worship and services outside of Sunday services with the kind of life events that happen to all of us that need rituals, services, and ceremonies. So these are usually part of what the church minister does. And I looked at the UUA website, and it says, every Unitarian Universalist congregation has its own way of celebrating life and marking life transitions. From birth to death, our congregations help us live with deeper gratitude, greater connection, and more reverence for life. Our custom-made weddings and memorial services honor the people involved by reflecting their unique personalities and values. UU clergy work closely with loved ones to design these very special events, close quote. So when we as a church were without a minister, we did not want those needs to go unserved. So we brainstormed during our monthly meetings about what we could do. We found out that two of us, Anita and I, had one of those pay us $50 and we'll give you an ordination online licenses. And another Susan was thinking about doing that and then received one. And other team members were willing to help in any way that they could. So we let the board know that we were available for weddings, memorials, or whatever might be of need to the congregation. During this time, we didn't have anyone who requested a wedding or a commitment, which we will try to forgive Megan and Darren for. But there were two Celebration of Life memorial services we did for two of our beloved congregants, Tom Stillman and Joanne Crower. Susan Hebel and I worked with Deborah and the Stillman family and Peter and the Crower family to create personalized, meaningful celebrations of the lives of Tom and Joanne. We suggested and helped the families select readings and music, put together an order of service and a program, wrote and spoke messages, led everyone through the service, arranged for others to be involved in the service, including pianists and, of course, Pam Floater. And we gave family members and friends the opportunity to share memories, feelings, and thoughts about Tom and Joanne. And we helped set up the gathering after the services with food and beverages downstairs with help from many church people who were not even on the worship team. And Dave stepped in the day before Joanne's service and took over delivering Susan's parts when she was waylaid with, of course, COVID. What did it mean to the Stillman and Crower families that we did this despite not having a minister? They were able to honor Tom and Joanne here in the place that meant so much to them. and to invite their family and friends to gather in this place of worship where they were comfortable, and to bring photos and memories to share and display. It also meant that they didn't have to worry about the service or the logistics and could focus on their family, friends, and their own experience of the memorial service. I was actually in touch with Deborah yesterday, and she expressed again how much that this meant to her and her family. What did it mean to our congregation? It was a coming together themselves to honor two people who had meant a lot to them and to be able to help out and to do something for the families. What did this mean to those of us who were on the team? It was what I would describe as a spiritual experience, a way of connecting and being of use in an intense and personal way in one of the most difficult and important times of people's lives. For me, it was also a way to give back to all of those in this church who put on an incredible memorial service for my mother, for which I'm forever grateful. What could be a better form of service in every sense of that term?
And to beg forgiveness, Darren and I are having a party here May 20th, and everyone is invited. But I get to speak about the interactive services that we had in the summer. So this summer we gathered together in the conversation circle and had more laid-back gatherings. Some of the services were more hands-on and interactive. Julia, as she mentioned, did a service where we all contributed to the wish list of where we want the church to go and what we would like it to do. There were many wonderful ideas, some that are a little more challenging to do, such as beekeeping, to figuring out how to get more members and community involvement, which will be an ongoing task. Anita did a Someone You Should Know service where people got up and told their stories. We learned about Darren's daughter, who works at the State Department, working with negotiating international environmental treaties, and also about Marjorie Stoneman Douglas, who was a naturalist, writer, and savior of the Everglades. Dave had a service where we shared stories about ourselves or things that we enjoyed, such as poetry or just tidbits of information. It was so wonderful to hear about our members and to learn a little bit about them when they were younger. I know I learned that Joe Gwads is a great storyteller, and I want to know more about Carol Doty's life. I'm a hands-on learner, and I know that sitting in the service for an hour not doing anything can be very challenging for me. I did a service about breaking some of the myths of dyslexia and had a part where you got to experience a little of what it was like trying to read and write if you had dyslexia. I enjoy being engaged in the service and hope that some of you enjoyed it too, and will continue to support us when we do some interactiveness in a service. This is the time in the service where we ask you to interact with the work of our church and share your monetary resources so we can continue being able to celebrate togetherness as a wonderful community. Let's say the offering words together that are projected on the screen. There we go. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with people around us, and with the world. Thank you in advance for your generosity. Now enjoy this video. It is Carolyn May playing Ave Maria.
Good morning. The Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh wrote this: "Every experience, no matter how bad it seems, holds within it a blessing of some kind. The goal is to find it." When I think of those fraught years at the height of the pandemic, distinct moments emerge. Moments of anxiety and fear and hopelessness, of malaise, restlessness, and sorrow, of industry and purpose, but also of hope and joy and connection and love. And I'm not surprised to say that when I scan through the virtual slideshow in my mind of the past 3 years, so many of the moments of what Han would call blessings are related to this church, to this community, to this faith. The memory I start with is a snapshot from February 29th, 2020, 3 years ago, exactly almost. The pandemic would take over our lives within a week or so. I remember that March 11th date too, so clearly. But on that spring-like day, it was a day just like this, a few dozen church members met in the Alice Warren room of for our own UCH version of the Great British Bake Off. We all enjoyed a wonderful, sweets-filled day together, despite the sense of unease caused by this thing called COVID-19. Well, I didn't realize at the time, really, you realize in retrospect, how grateful I was that Jeff and I shared one of our last normal pre-COVID shutdown days, having fun with church friends here in this space. But COVID did not stop us from continuing, as you've already been hearing this morning, from gathering, from sharing, from supporting our church and each other. We're still here together, thanks to Pam Fodor, to Reverend Pam, who was going to retire and didn't retire, and then obviously did retire last spring, to the worship team, which has been awesome to work with, to Jamie, to Julia, to the celebration singers, to our board, to our tech crew, to all the members of this congregation who see this church as part of themselves and who see themselves as integral to this living, changing, sometimes messy, sometimes astonishing, always beautiful church community. Last November, I presented a service here about what I'd learned in facing inevitable loss, change, and transitions in my own life. But I see now that one of the key takeaways which I discovered as I wrote that talk, applies to loss, change, and transition here at UCH. Again, I draw from the wisdom of Thich Nhat Hanh, who believed not so much in transition as in continuation. In his book titled Going Home, Hanh writes this: "Nothing can come from nothing. Before a tree is here, it was a seed. And before that, it was part of another tree. There is no separation of one thing from another, of one time from another. There is only continuation." I love this notion because it reminds us that a central idea of Unitarian Universalism is that we are constantly becoming ourselves, that our faith, and by extension our faith community, are growing living things, not something static. Rather, as Hans suggested, we may see our own faith as a continuation, a chance to transform our inheritance into a beautiful direction. So in that spirit, I am delighted to welcome Reverend Beth Johnson and to join you all as we continue to learn together, to work together, and to have fun together, and to share our gifts of love and care with each other and all the world. Now we'll hear from Ron.
My contribution this morning service, is a little different. I'm reminiscing, and I'm returning back more than 50 years to the 60s, when we faced a multitude of challenges. Those challenges, the civil rights marches, the protests, Vietnam War, gun violence, killings, and not so coincidentally, some and more of the very same that we'll be hearing about this very day. Back then, it was then that Norma, my wife, and I, with our UU church friends of St. Cloud, Minnesota, attended a local college performance of The Man from La Mancha. During that performance, we were moved, coming together in a new and unexpected moment, and with some tears, we saw and heard To Dream the Impossible Dream.
Foe to bear with unbearable sorrow, to run where the brave dare not go, to right the unrightable wrong, to love pure and chaste from afar, to try when your arms are too weary, to reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest, and the world will be better for this. That one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable stars. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this. That one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage to reach the unreachable star.
holding service during the pandemic was not an impossible dream. It wasn't impossible, it wasn't a dream, it was a reality. It was a challenge, but more than that, it was an opportunity. Because we were on Zoom, we could bring in a whole new set of audio and video content that we weren't in the habit of doing. And by the way, putting together all those Zoom services early on with no preparation was all the work of Jamie Passman. We had popular music, we had videos, we changed the format of worship services. From an early date, we had virtual coffee hour after church where we could discuss the service that we had just had. And we had more participation by the congregation during the services. We've heard and seen some examples of the sorts of things that we were doing. And here are a couple of services that I remember. There's one that I led in which I interviewed Emily Crement, who's a member of our church and who's a school principal. We were both on Zoom, and people could watch and listen to the conversation. We talked about the question of whether having police in schools is a good idea. And as a principal, she had a quite different view than I had, and I learned a lot and changed some of my thinking, and I think some members of the church did too. At another service I led when we were back in church, I was joined by Paige Costello, a young member of the church, and we sat down here in sort of cafe chairs and talked talk show style about how older people and younger people viewed a whole range of issues, from race to sexism to trans people, pronouns, and should actors portray characters of a different race or ethnicity or sexual orientation. And we threw it open to the church. And we had a discussion that we really had to cut short so that church wouldn't go on too long. And then there was a service that I did toward the end of 2020, the first COVID year, when I asked people to send in their favorite time wasters online, since everyone had had so much time in front of their computers. And I got things like cooking shows, stupid pet videos, history of castles, a chess channel, and it brought people together, and we learned so many details about each other. And since we've been together in person, we've practiced that freedom, and our services have been more dynamic. We've had kids forming a bridge to walk under while you shed your own habits and ideas. We've written things down and washed them away in water or sent them home to be set on fire. We've had more singing and dancing. Sometimes we'll have a giant butterfly, a commercial for cheese recycling. What a long, strange trip it's been. And I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
I am amazed. We did not rehearse this. And we are coming together with the same message. I will start by reading an excerpt from one of Rabindranath Tagore's collection of poems, Gitanjali. Tagore was a Bengali poet and the first non-European to receive the Nobel Peace Prize for Literature in 1913. And I think these words will resonate with religious liberals like us. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms toward perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by ever-widening thought and action into that heaven of freedom, let my country and I awake. Tagore's elegant words speak to us as Unitarians and remind us of the freedoms we so cherish in our faith. Our church has been a beacon of light for those who want to question old truths and for those who yearn for a spiritual home. Throughout my 56 years as a member of this church, I, as well as others, have seen many changes and have experienced many challenging times. Yet we have withstood it all and have grown in mind and spirit and into this beloved community. What has remained constant during those years has been our willingness to serve our church in many ways. Being on this committee is one way, and what a joy it has been for me to partake with fellow members who are smart and compassionate. Thank you, members, and thank you, Dave Lloyd, for your gentle, astute leadership, guidance. Our committee, as well as our commitment, continues, possibly in a new form, as we await the arrival of our new minister, Reverend Beth Johnson. Hopefully, our contributions have made a difference. I end with President Jimmy Carter's words. He says, as he begins to end his life, we remember these very important words. He said, "I have one life and one chance to make it count for something. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I can, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to make a difference. So may it be."
Thank you all, membership team. Great. Please join me in this responsive reading by reading the congregational part. It is called Together in a Sacred Space by Laura Lee Greenwood Jones. In this sacred place, we need not be alone. We seek a listening ear, a warm heart, open arms. In this sacred place, we join together in its waves of community and correction in our world. We are a community of individual beings, living our own lives, yet coming together now and then in joyous celebration of spirit and one another. Our differences do not divide us, rather they are a source of interest and discovery. We need not think alike to love alike. Here, joys are shared and sorrows comforted. We are seen and heard and believed. We are a gathering of like-hearted people, and here are our hearts filled. We hear the wisdom and counsel of our ministers and that of one another. We have much to learn from each other, so many different colors of truth and ways and methods. In this sacred place, may we find what our spirits desire and what our spirits need. May we be grounded in love and sharing. In this sacred place, may we find acceptance and consideration. May our actions and words echo what we learn here. Please stand if you're willing and able and join us in singing "Love Will Guide Us," number 131.
Our closing words are from UU Minister Kent McCusick. To serve, to grow, and to love. In the name of all that is holy, may the connections between us inspire and sustain us. May the flame of life within us and amongst us be a sacred reminder that we are all called to serve, to grow, and to love as we continue this journey of transformation. Please join us in the extinguishing words, which are on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts, and we share with all the world.
Okay. I had an opportunity to have a nice long conversation with our new Reverend Beth, and I just wanted to say that what I emphasized over and over again speaking to her is how proud I am of this church and how we hung together through a difficult time. I didn't know that we were going to make it, and I'm just so proud of all of us, so thank you. Next week is a new beginning for us, and but I'm here to speak about something personal. Friday was the end for me, not here. I'm still coming here. But I decided to retire from, I've been on the road playing gigs and concerts and everywhere for 42 years. It defines who I am, and to walk away from it is really difficult, really, really difficult. And I want to thank you. This is my home now, and your love towards me, and I feel it all the time. I can't thank you enough. This is a tough day for me, and I want to thank all of you so much. If you don't mind, I'm going to play a sad song. It's by Chick Corea called Crystal Silence, and it sums up what's in my heart. So thank you all.